Hello and welcome to this lecture. In the upcoming minutes, I'll teach you everything you need to know about typography rules, best practices, and how you can make educated decisions for your designs. This is going to be a two-part lecture, and at the end of it, you should know what fonts to use, what colours, how to combine typefaces, and so on. One of the first things you should be aware of is that some fonts look good only in certain sizes. On my canvas, I have a wonderful script font named Aquafina. While it's aesthetically pleasing in larger sizes, once you shrink it down to under 20 pixels, not only does it look worse, but it becomes unreadable. On the other hand, Roboto is extremely versatile and can be used in any medium and in just about any size. As you can see here, I can shrink it all the way down and it still maintains a good level of legibility. I'd say that's an exception because most fonts, especially decorative ones, are best used only in certain sizes. So keep this in mind when you're choosing your next typeface for your project. Not all of them work well in all sizes. It may look great on Google Fonts or Adobe's Typekit, but once you use it in your project at a different size, things might be dramatically different. Next, always strive to get maximum contrast. While it's true a dash of colour helps your design stand out, try to avoid striking colours. As you can see, red and blue on a dark background just doesn't do the trick. And it's the same thing when you combine red text layers with a blue background. This is not what you're looking for because it's not visually pleasing. Yes, you could potentially read this text, but nobody would willingly do that because it's too harsh. Instead, try to use colours that are easy on the eye. While typography should be considered an art form, it's best you understand legibility comes first. I'm sure you may have seen some awesome graffiti pieces in your city, but no matter how intricate they are, if you can't understand it, it's pointless. Thus, use a good level of contrast and stay away from experimental combinations. If the user can't read it with ease, then it's no good. My rule of thumb is this: if you haven't seen your combination on a mainstream website, then you should stay away from it. Think about which sites you visit daily. If you think they look good, try to apply the same principles in your own designs. And if your project is a book cover, a business card, or a poster, browse some of the most well-known galleries out there and see what works and what doesn't. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. Let's move on to anti-aliasing, which is a fairly boring subject, but I'll keep it on a need-to-know basis. Anti-aliasing helps smooth out your fonts, and it prevents jagged edges from showing up in your designs. If we didn't use this feature, we'd get text layers that would look like this one. You don't have to zoom in to see the problems, but the closer you get, the more you understand this is not ideal. This happens when there are no intermediate pixels to bridge the gap between your typeface and your background. Photoshop provides 6 anti-aliasing choices, each one of them having a different impact in your type's appearance. My advice is you stay away from strong and sharp. The first one adds artificial weight to your type, while the second one is a bit rough. I'm not sure you can pick up on these differences as they're difficult to spot. In this example, notice the S character. At the bottom, we can clearly see some differences between the two. Same thing here and here. Sharp has another 2 pixels that help smooth this transition, while the strong anti-aliasing option has them completely filled with colour. You might think these semi-transparent pixels should be avoided because they look blurry, but when you zoom back out at 100%, you'll see these help the text look better. Paragraph length should always be kept at a moderate size. If you squish it in a very narrow column, the reader will have a hard time navigating it. On the other hand, if you stretch it out over a vast area, this achieves the same unwanted effect. The potential reader is likely to skip that area. We've learned about paragraph text layers, so it should be easy for you to grab these handles and resize these lines of text to a moderate size. This is what you should aim for. I won't mention a specific length because even if that's the case, say 90 characters per line, it would be hard for you to strictly enforce it. My advice: use your fair judgment and stay around this length. When you're choosing your next font for your design, think about the atmosphere you're trying to portray. Is this a presentation for the office, or is it for a birthday party flyer? Maybe it's a document for your lawyer. All these circumstances matter. Based on that, you can choose an appropriate font. Notice the difference between these 2 lines. Which one seems more friendly? How about this one here? Which font do you think is more appropriate for this context? The sentiment you're trying to transmit should be reflected in your design choices. If it's a playful project like a birthday party flyer for a young kid, you're sure to want to use something whimsical, playful, maybe fairly rounded. For an official document, go with something sober, cold, professional. So this is how you choose your fonts. You take into account the sentiment you're trying to get across, and based on that, you tailor your choices. Okay, let's continue this topic in the next lecture.